Today is gonna be an awesome day because we're gonna be prepping the Skyline for its last hurrah. Does anyone else do this? Set the hood up on their head so they can get that in because they're holding the camera? I don't know. Anyways, I'm sure vloggers know about this. Anyways, we are prepping the Skyline for its last final drift event. I couldn't just let this thing sit idly by and just not even like, I miss the RV, guys. I miss it so much. So I found out about a very special event. Actually, I've been in talks with the owner or the organizer of this event for a very long time, since about a year ago. And in short, he's come back to me to come. So I'm prepping the Skyline for what will be its final last drift day. Look, we know the piston rings are worn. We know this thing's got oil consumption issues, but one last drift event, could it really hurt that much? I think she'll be right. We're gonna do everything that we can to make it survive. Although I did kind of open the tune and add all the timing back in and the boost. So this thing's going to be feeling great for its final drift event. But I'm definitely going to be having a full jug of oil with me to keep this thing all G. And I've obviously got the oil pressure sensors set up and stuff with the ECU fail safes. In case anything happens, it'll shut it off and save it, because I would like to keep this block and head okay. So the last thing I want is to shoot a rod, and I don't think worn piston rings are going to do that. So we should be okay. But that aside, first things first is we need to clean this engine out, and I have a engine conditioner for that. So I'm going to jack up the car a little bit, and we're going to pour the engine flusher into the engine, let it idle for 10-15 minutes. Then we're going to dump all the oil out, including I'm going to be undoing the lines on my oil cooler here, get out as much of that old oil as I can. Just this line here, it's like a little drain, and that way this thing will have a chance with some fresh 15W50 synthetic oil, and we should be good. So let's get started. All right, so we're prepared. Got the car tampon. If you don't know what these are, they're a box of like absorbing cloths and stuff, and you open it up and there's a bag inside. You drain your oil into that, and then you seal it up with a zip tie and put it in the trash, and they pick it up and it gets disposed of. But that aside, we have our engine shampoo. ASMR engine shampoo, boys. Let's get this Tomei piston. See, it's shaped like a piston. Maybe a hint for the future, boys. Get that off there. It's definitely not the cleanest looking oil, that's for sure. See, can I do this one-handed? Do I have super strong 2 fingers? Oh yeah, we do. Here we go. ASMR engine shampoo time. Let's not spill this everywhere, hey? Oh yeah. Get in. Now, usually I don't really bother with these, but because the car's been consuming a lot of oil, I've kind of just been doing the dirty old topping her up and keep running her. So like, this thing really hasn't had a full proper oil change in a fair few months. So that's why I think the oil's so black and stuff, because it's just been, you know, like recirculating that old stuff and me just constantly just here and there topping it up, which is kind of a no-no. So it's not something I recommend anyone to do. But hey, you know, when you're just waiting for your engine to be pulled apart, which hasn't happened because I still haven't got my shop space, it is what it is. So now we got to let this thing idle for roughly 10 to 15 minutes. Make sure we're neutral so this thing doesn't jump off the jack stands or anything. There we go. So let this thing idle, circulate everything through. Now typically I don't really use these engine shampoos or engine oil like cleaners, but because I've literally just been topping this thing up, I haven't done a full oil change on it in a while, like a fair few months, it's probably wise for me to do this. So that's why I want to clean out as much of the old oil as possible, any oil sludge and stuff like that. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. So, hey Siri, set a timer for 10 minutes.
Okay, 10 minutes and counting.
There we go, we're ready to roll. We'll come back in 10 minutes, drain the slushy oil in the oil cooler, and then fill her up with some new oil. While we're waiting for the engine shampoo to do its job, we got ourselves a nice Uber Eats delivery from Hotomoto. If you guys know what this is, it is called shogayaki, which is essentially pieces of pork with like this awesome garlic sauce, and that is, yes, fresh garlic minced up. Get a bit of potato salad and some pickle stuff on the side, and then a big thing of rice. So I'm gonna down this, and then by the time we're done with that, we can change the oil. So the car was idling for a total of 10 minutes, maybe like 12, but it's now time to get this out. Can we do it without getting oil over myself? 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, we did pretty good. That is some black looking oil. I don't know if that engine cleaner's just cleaned it all up or what. That does not look yummy at all. So I've got this thing draining under here and it's just a little dribble. I'm going to try and let it drain for as long as possible. I also poured some fresh oil in the top as well to help try and like flush some of the old stuff out. And it did bring out a whole bunch more black oil, which is good. Just going to let it drain probably for an hour or so, as much as I can to get everything out as I can. And then I'll drain out the cooler, we'll switch out the filter, put the bung back in and fill her up with some fresh oil. For now, I've got some other things to do behind the scenes, but I figured this was a great opportunity to remind you guys, if you haven't gotten yourself any new SAMMIT merch, definitely head to sammit.net and grab yourself some fresh shirts. We've got a whole bunch of designs there right now. I do have a new chaser drop coming probably in about 4 weeks time. So now would be the perfect opportunity to get what you can of the other designs before they are gone forever. So once again, sammit.net, go get yourself some merch and support the channel, and let's get back to it. It's now the next day after I undid the filter and the oil cooler line, and I let that thing kind of just drain everything out, including the oil pan, to get as much of this oil out. And you can really tell that the cleaner did a good job. Look how gross this oil is that came out of it. It's pretty gross. Pretty much now I'm at the stage of, I've already got the new oil filter on, I've got the drain plug back in and everything, and I'm ready to start filling this thing up with some fresh new oil. We are going to be disconnecting the cam angle sensor and cranking it to build up some oil pressure before we obviously start this thing, because I've drained out as much oil as I can out of the system, so it's going to be pretty dry in there. I started buying motor oil in bulk because it works out to be so much cheaper to just buy these 20-litre drums here in Japan. And then because I use this for my oil filler jug, these are awesome. I can't recommend them enough. I just picked this up off Amazon. I never spill oil or anything like that. You just fill up there the exact amount that you need. It's measured on the side, and you literally just pour it in like that. Like, it is just so simple, especially when you're dealing with bulk oil like this in the drum. You just kind of just tip it in and you're good to go. You don't have to use funnels or anything. So with that, I'm going to get the liquid gold ready, pour her in, crank her up, get some oil pressure built up, and then we'll get this thing running. And then we got to do some data logging and stuff and make sure that with the tune adjustments, everything's all good. And then this thing will be ready for its drift day. It's time for some liquid gold, baby. Look at this. No mess whatsoever. Perfect. So now I've got the cam angle sensor disconnected. Make sure she's in neutral, and we're going to crank her for a little bit till the oil pressure light disappears and we start seeing this thing build some oil pressure. Alright. Takes a bit, and you should really let it have a little bit of a break every now and then. As you can see, oil pressure just started building on the gauge there. Yep, oil pressure light is now gone. We have some pretty good oil pressure there. So it's all through the filter now. The oil cooler as well. That's what you want. So now what we'll do is we'll let the car sit for a bit and let the oil settle. I'll check the levels, and then we'll be good to fire her up. And I can plug in my cam trigger again. If you guys don't remember, or if you're new to the channel, I don't run the Nissan cam angle sensor on these. I run the NZ wiring cam trigger kit. Seriously, the best like bang for buck trigger kit on the market. It's just for the cam, so it doesn't have a crank reference, but it is so much better than the other things on the market when it comes to just replacing your cam angle sensor. So I think a cam angle sensor brand new from Nissan is like $600, $500, but this is like 350 bucks. You cannot go wrong with it, and you're able to do some really cool stuff in the ECU and get a bunch of ignition timing back in the tune and stuff. So check this out, guys. I have not seen the Skyline this clean in a very long time. I gave this thing a really decent bath, cleaned the wheels up. Look how good that looks. I got this really good wheel like brush cleaning kit that gets in there and stuff, and did a really good job. But yeah, she hasn't looked this clean in a long time. It's gonna look good. I think the drift event's pretty much in a week's time from now, so as long as nothing goes wrong, we should be going. I'm pretty excited. It's gonna be a very special event. Some of you guys have probably got the hint and know where what event it is and where we're going, but I'm just excited I get to drift this thing one more time. We'll get to drive it a little bit more aggressive now that, since I've gotten the Chaser, it's just really changed my mindset on driving and stuff, so I think we'll be able to send it a bit harder in this. Anyways, we're gonna take this car for a ride and test out and do a bit of data logging so we can send it to Darren, get the tune adjusted. Also, just really quickly, I know there's been a bit of stabilization issues with the camera. I'm still playing with settings, but unfortunately, it does seem like the camera that I'm using right now doesn't have the best auto stabilization. And when I was using the Canon G7X, I definitely got lazy with my hand movements because the stabilization on that was just so good, I didn't even have to think about it. But going to this camera, it ticks the boxes for everything else. Fast focus, good low light, good audio, which are pretty much three really important things when it comes to vlogging. The only thing it doesn't seem to tick is stabilization. While it doesn't look too bad when I'm holding it like this, if I start walking, that's when we get a bit of a problem. So I don't know, we're gonna play around with it a bit more. And I'm probably going to keep searching for a better camera if I can't get this stabilization to be any better, or if Sony doesn't release a new update for it. I don't have a shaky hand. I've done a lot of filming in the past. I used to do that as like a bit of a job and things like that, so I know I have a pretty steady camera hand. I think it just comes down to natural movement like walking and stuff like that. So anyways, with that, let's go do a bit of driving, do some data logging, got the laptop here, and let's get started. So I've been driving the car around for a little bit now, just doing a few little tests and stuff to see if I can notice any white smoke coming out of the exhaust. And while the car's in neutral, if I really get on it and rev this thing out to Limmy, we're not getting any white, burning oil smoke. But if it's under load, like let's just say in first gear, I take off from the lights, put my foot down, rev the thing out, we see a pretty decent cloud of white smoke coming out. So it seems to only happen when the car's like under load and boost. Like second gear, it seems to be kind of fine, and third gear, it's fine. I don't know, it's so weird. Like if there was like an issue with the turbo, you'd see it like even if you revved it up, just sitting on the spot. If it was piston rings, you'd think you'd see it more in the higher gears at the higher RPMs. I don't know, it's weird. I don't care, we're just gonna send it, and yeah, hopefully everything holds together and she'll be right, yeah? In worst case scenario, we're gonna buy another block, which I'm not too fussed about. Let's see if you can see it in the camera. This thing still feels so good on power. Like it doesn't miss a beat. It seriously feels so good. It just puts out a little bit of white smoke now. Giving the Skyline a little bit of a drink. Drink, my precious. And then I'm gonna check tire pressure with this thing. I don't think I've ever shown this in the vlog, but they're pretty funny. I'll show you when I get to tire pressures. So this is gonna be hard to do one-handed, but essentially you push this onto your tire valve. It tells you how much pressure you have, and then you push either the plus or the minus button. It's pretty simple, but yeah. I'm gonna add some air, get this thing up to 2.2. There you go. And then as this thing gets like lazy and you can't feel the tire anymore because that's all the air it can hold is in that little cylinder, you just put it back on the like thing that it sits on, the hanger, and it refills it up with air automatically. Because inside this thing is another valve and it like sprays air into it. I'll show you. Like this, right? See? And you'll hear it. Cool, right? And then you can then go do the rest of your tires. back home now, lads, and I hope you enjoyed today's video, even though it was super chill. Obviously, just maintenance and prepping the Skyline for what will be its last drift event. And this may be jinxing it a little bit, but I want to hear, what do you guys think is going to happen? You know, are we going to be able to drive to the drift event, drift all day, and drive home? Or is something else going to happen and we're going to have to take the car home on a tow truck? At this point, I don't really know. It's anyone's guess. But obviously, I hope for just the simplicity of not having to get a tow truck and dealing with all that whole mess, that everything goes great. But obviously, I know I'm taking a risk. But RBs are pretty strong. They can handle a bit of abuse, at least in my experience. With that, guys, smash that like button, write us a comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all in tomorrow's video. Don't forget, SAMMIT merch, sammit.net. Catch you later. Peace out. Jamata.